Good evening, good afternoon, Lucas, and welcome. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A question for you. So I actually did the self-paced today and took the exam, got my cert and everything like that. But I definitely want to be here and kind of go through everything like that. I know from the fundamentals one that you reserve like the last 45 minutes or so for the exam. Would it be okay to leave at that time then?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, Alex. We will begin our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So again, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to those that have just joined. We will start our session at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Again, welcome. We're glad to have you. Welcome for those that have just joined. Welcome. We'll give others another 45 seconds to join us here. We want to get started at 2 minutes after the hour. We're glad that you all have joined us. Okay, let's get started. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. I'm glad to have you here with us this evening with this session. A little bit about my background. I've been in IT for about 30 years now. My career has been mostly around data management, database design. I played DevOps roles, DBA, and of course, the technical trainer. I'm calling in from the Midwest here. It's about to be kind of cool tonight, but hopefully you're somewhere comfortable. Okay. I am joined by our training manager here, Josh Rothheim, and Josh is going to be manning the QA as well as the chat. Josh?
Yeah, thanks, Odell. So as Odell mentioned, Josh Bronthal, I'm training manager at Sumo Logic. For today, I'm going to be on the chat. So if there's any questions or feedback or comments or what have you, go ahead and post them in the chat. We have a fun session for you. So hopefully you'll be engaged for a couple hours and yeah, kick it back to Odell and let's go.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. So again, welcome to our Sumo Logic Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics certification session. What we'll be covering in this session, I'll give you that 500-foot overview, okay? Then I'll go ahead and give you a security demo. Then you and I will get into our training environment here at Sumo Logic, and we'll get into some labs. We'll do some labs that allow us to create some SOC dashboards with some filters, some lookup filters. We'll take a break, and then we'll have some labs that allow us to export out our SOC dashboards for compliance. And then, of course, you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and get your certifications. All right. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and save some bandwidth here so you can focus on the lecture at hand as well as the slides. And I'll turn off my video. Okay. You may have seen some of the slide before, but again, I'll hit the highlights of it. This is actually an example of 4 dashboards that you can create within our tool. As I mentioned, I was in DevOps early on in my career. And one of the things that I had to do was check, make sure the logs, there were no errors in the logs. So I would come in and log into the Unix console. Then I'd go and look for the logs. Once I found the log, I'd issue some grep statements to search through the logs. Now, had I been fortunate enough to had the Sumo Logic's continuous intelligence platform, I could have created an actual dashboard from an operational perspective where I was able to find out the health of my systems. Are there any mean times for resolutions that I have to resolve? Again, are all the systems up and running? So those are some pieces of information that I could glean from an operational perspective. From a security perspective, I could have created a dashboard that would allow me to find out, well, who's using the root access? Are there any persons logging into multiple locations simultaneously? So I could find out that type of information, where my users are logging in from a security perspective. And then from a business perspective, I can find out what pages are frequently viewed on our websites by our customers. What are they ordering? If we issued a marketing campaign a while back, was it successful? So those are the types of pieces of information I could glean from a business perspective, intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, we could have created a dashboard that sees how is our company doing compared to other companies? Maybe observing our data from a worldwide perspective. Okay, so up top here, you just got 4 examples of some dashboards that could be created within the tool. And of course, from those dashboards are actually using your logs and your metrics, all of your data, where it comes from, whether it's from an app or microservices, cloud or SaaS, wherever your logs and metrics are stored, we're going to utilize that to build those dashboards and those log searches and so forth. What do we offer? Well, we offer a multi-tenancy environment where our environment is very secure. Security is priority number 1 for us. If you need to grow your actual requirements or you need to downsize, we're elastic, we're scalable. So we'll meet your needs of your requests of enlarging or decreasing. You'll see some machine learning and advanced analytics within our tool. Okay. Some companies like to incorporate Sumo logic into other products. So APIs, application programming interfaces, are available as well. Again, as security, as I mentioned before, security is very high on our list here. What you're seeing in this flyout window over here is our attestments, our security certifications. Okay, so we are SOC 2 certified, FedRAMP certified, HIPAA certified. Again, just a subset of some of our certifications and attestments. And then finally, your people. Okay, what we mean by that is you want to and you can achieve continuous collaboration from a single source to help facilitate speedy decision making. Okay, again, basically you're able to find results, share it across all lines of your business. Okay, so the big takeaway from this here's screen here, again, some objectives that you can achieve by creating dashboards. We're utilizing your data, your logs and your metrics, wherever it comes from. Our tool offers a ton of analytics to help you find things and resolve your issues. And then finally, from a global perspective, a company perspective, you can share the findings. Have a single point to facilitate and share your findings. Okay. All right, now when we look at our umbrella of security offerings, we have 3 layers, so to speak. Okay, first we're going to look at our audit and compliance. Okay, from an audit and compliance perspective, make sure I get this right. Yeah, it's what we mean here is we're highly scalable. We're a secure environment to store all of your data. We're backed by some of those, many certifications. Numerous certifications. I just talked about our attestments. Okay, so our environment is secure. Okay, your data collection, it's scalable. It's ingested from both on-prem as well as a cloud platform. So wherever your data resides, we're going to be able to have access to it. And finally, compliance apps. We have a host of out-of-the-box pre-built compliance apps. Okay. Again, you'll be able to rapidly come up to speed and secure your environment, especially from your audit perspectives. All right, next we go into the security analytics. Again, part of this umbrella of offerings. Again, our analytics is where you build on the intelligence, okay? You perform some deep searches using some data from analyzing your logs, okay? You can use some pre-built dashboards as well as establish some alerts, okay? Again, we're going to spend most of our time on this, matter of fact, all of our time on here building searches and dashboards. And then the other last tier under our umbrella is our Cloud SIEM. And that acronym stands for Security Information and Event Management. Okay, we offer that continuous threat correlation. Okay, going back hours. It allows us to streamline our security workflows. Okay, so again, that's our umbrella of tools that we offer from an audit perspective, from a security perspective, and again, from a threat correlation perspective. Okay, as I mentioned, we'll spend most of our time on a security analytics. All right, and speaking of security analytics here, this is where we'll use and create searches as well as dashboards. We also will apply some advanced operators, okay? We'll use some of that machine learning that I talked about as well. Our searches are easily created and will be quick ways to query our data. All right, we'll be able to create some dashboards using those queries as well. This will help us look for and identify any anomalies. We'll be able to filter on any specific events that may occur, and also be able to predict our trends. So again, we'll use some searches, some dashboards, and some advanced analytics to, again, secure our environment and keep it maintained. All right, so let me get in here and start a demo for you. So again, just give me an opportunity to log into our environment and go through a demo for you real quickly. I'm going to look at a security demo for our AWS dashboards. So I'm actually logging into the CIP. You're just watching right now. And I want to make sure I'm in my demo environment. I am. Okay, I'm actually going to a folder for my SEI DEM. I'm going to my security demo 3.0 folder. And within here, I have a bunch of dashboards. I want to look at my security overview 3.0 AWS dashboard. Okay. Now, what we're seeing here is a dashboard that has several panels on it. Each one of these panels has an underlying query. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at each one of these panels and just kind of see what's the advantage of some of the information it's providing for us. So this first panel here, you and I can take a look and find out where users are logging in from. Okay, make sure that we find out if there are any, this is how we can identify if there's any threatening logins. Okay, so we can see all over the world. We have the ability to zoom in, we can zoom out, we can use our mouse and drag over as well. Okay, so this is again login location dashboard. Then over next to the right of that, I see my threat intel. Okay, now we have a relationship with CrowdStrike, and we'll talk more about that coming up. But again, we can find out here if there are any malicious IP addresses. They could be listed here, and that's through that relationship that we have with CrowdStrike. That's going to be one of the advantages of utilizing our tool as well. And I'll talk more about that coming up. Over to the right here, we see our land speed violation. Again, we'll do a demo coming up about this, but essentially here, you can see this particular user logged in from the United States. They also logged in from Egypt. And if we look at the distance of that, but that's quite impressive how they were able to do that, unless they had some type of telnetting feature or something like that. But again, this is a land speed violation, so we can kind of investigate that. Down below that, again, we can see our data volume. Okay, it's interactive here. We can see our S3 buckets where we're able to be interactive with the actual legend. Down here, we can turn them off and filter down or hide, so to speak. Okay. Over to the right here, we see our AWS guard duty. Okay. And again, just to remind you about AWS, it's a platform that allows you to have security monitoring that analyzes your VPC flows, your virtual private cloud. Okay, the logs and the CloudTrail event logs. Okay, so we can find out from those guard duty issues over here. Then we see our VPC flows. If there's any outliers here, again, we're looking at our virtual private cloud environments. Over to the right here, we're looking at our firewall traffic. Maybe we're looking at any attack activity on our firewall. We can see some spikes here. Then finally, down at the bottom, we have our anti-malware as well as our integrity monitoring. And again, we're looking for abnormal patterns in these, okay? We want to see anything that's abnormal here. All right, so again, this is our AWS overview dashboard that gives us a lot of information here. All right. All right. Let's get back in here to our slides. All right, now let's ladies and gentlemen, get into our training environment. Okay, I want you to go ahead and think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999. And I want you to put that number in the chat window for me. And I'll go ahead and put our credentials in here for you. So again, as I mentioned, you're logging into our training environment. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Vishal. Thank you, Harry. Again, I want you to go ahead and log in as well as I'm doing. Thank you, Deborah. I'm launching a browser and I'm typing in service.sumologic.com. And of course, I'm using the credentials that Odell put in the chat window. So we're using training and the plus symbol, the word analyst, and your 3-digit number. Okay. At sumologic.com. And of course, the password is uppercase L, logs 2022. Okay. And I fat fingered it, so I want to make sure of that. And log in. All right, please let us know, and confirm that you were able to successfully log in. We don't want to leave anyone. Again, confirm and let us know that you were able to successfully log in. Thanks, Vishal. Thanks, Jay. Oh, Jay, what's wrong? Thank you, Amy. Jay, use another number. Try 627. Thank you, Lucas. Thanks, Harry. Yeah, try that number, Jay, when you replace it with the pound symbols. So again, you're using our URL and you're using our email, but you're replacing the pound symbols with your number. And that password has an exclamation mark on it. So make sure you're aware of that. Thanks, Dan. Again, let us know if you have any problems logging in. Don't want to leave anyone here. So again, make sure, Jay, that you're spelling the words. Yeah, let me see what you got there. Training plus analyst. Sumo Logic, that looks okay. Thanks, Alex. Make sure you use the right password too as well. That's logs, uppercase L, and there's an exclamation mark there. Thanks, Deborah. Let me know that you guys are able to log in. Yeah, good point. Josh mentions make sure it's service.sumologic.com. All right, Alex, thank you. Good, Jay. Hopefully everyone's in, okay? All right. Now let's get to where our actual labs are, okay? Make sure we get to where our labs are. All right. So if you would, go ahead and open up another browser and type in help.sumologic.com. Okay, again, open up another browser, type in help.sumologic.com. All right, when you type in help.sumologic.com, it should bring you to where you see a bunch of big blocks there. The one that's leftmost is the start here. Let's go ahead and click on that one. On the left margin there, you'll see the phrase, it's about the 5th one down, should read Quick Start Labs and Tutorials. And if you've taken any other courses with me, I often recommend this is where you start at to try to get some of the knowledge under your belt. So when you click on that Quick Start Labs and Tutorials, here's some of our great starting points. You might have taken fundamentals with me already. Maybe you've taken Search Mastery as well, maybe administration as well. Now we are all on the cloud security monitoring analytics, okay? I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat in case someone can't get to it. But again, this is where we're going to get to our labs from. Okay. Now, while I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and do just a couple other things here, ladies and gentlemen. Students often ask, hey, I need the video of this class or what have you. All right, so here's another way of getting to the videos, ladies and gentlemen. In your environment, in our environment, training environment here, you can just click on you're on the home tab, click on the certification link, click on Get Certified. You're opening our SkillJar app, and next you'll be able to click on the recorded live events. Excuse me, recorded live trainings. You'll click on this block here, okay? Once you click on that block, again, our class, you want to make sure you read it correctly. It's the Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics. So if you were to click on that, its registration is just a click away. Okay, then you'll hear another one of our colleagues here give you the 2-hour session, same thing I'm giving you. And again, you'll be able to see and download your slides as well as the lab guide. That's for all of our curriculums if you go into that recorded live trainings, okay? All right. One other thing to be mindful of is if you're in a Google Chrome environment, you can right-click on one of those tabs and pin that tab. The advantage of pinning a tab is it allows you to quickly toggle between our lab steps and the CIP, the Continuous Intelligence Platform, okay? It's not mandatory you do it, it's just another little tip for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So this first overview screen that we're on kind of gives you what we're going to end up building. We're going to end up building an actual SOC dashboard, okay? Now, some things to be mindful of is we're going to utilize your data, which we talked about before, okay? We're then going to detect, investigate, and then respond on those log messages or metric items, which will allow us to identify any potential objects, meet any compliance issues that we may have ran into, and also create any reactive or manual processes that we have to integrate with. So again, that's an iterative process as well, where you continue to detect, respond, and investigate, or detect, investigate, and respond. Okay. All right, going down to our topic hierarchy, we want to go ahead and click on our monitoring user activity, lab number 1. I am going to guide you through these labs. Okay. All right, now, when we talk about monitoring user activity, it would help us understand what we're doing in our AWS cloud, okay? And how that environment is being used. So what we're going to do is monitor the activity. It may be able to isolate any potential malicious activity. Okay. So in this first lab, we're going to create a query that will show us the top 10 AWS activity with their user information. We're also going to learn a little bit about JSON parsing and how to make a visualization, a chart. Okay, this chart is going to become one of the panels in our starter SOC dashboard. Okay, so again, we're going to have one panel that we're going to end up having. Okay, by the end of the lab 6, we're going to have 5 panels for our SOC dashboard. All right, so right now we're under the topic lab activity. We're going to look at our CloudTrail logs in JSON format over the last 24 hours. Okay, let's go ahead and highlight what's under number 1 and copy that. And let's go ahead and go back to our CIP. And let's create a new, by clicking on the blue button, new log search. Okay, if you see any pop-ups, you can go ahead and skip them. And let's go ahead and place our cursor in the query area, and we'll see the actual metadata tags drop down, but we're going to paste. And again, one of the features that I may have discussed with you before, or one of the other trainers may have discussed with you, is the ability to comment out multiple lines. So what I'm using on my Mac here is the Options key. You might be able to use the Alt key on anything other than a Mac. And I'm dragging a line down by holding my left mouse and holding the Options key. I'll see a blinking cursor there. Anything that I type will now be to the left of that line. I want to go ahead and comment those lines out, so I'll add 2 slashes. Okay, I could have done them individually, one at a time, but I wanted to go ahead and kill 3 birds at one time. Okay. Anyhow, we want to go ahead and make sure we're running for the last 24 hours. So I'll change my time up here to 24 hours. Now I'm commenting out all of these other messages so we can kind of walk through our query. I'm running and looking at our CloudTrail data. Okay. Some of you may be aware that field extraction rules or auto parsing is automatically done on our JSONs. Just to kind of remind you real quickly, this gear up here with my query, again, it has auto parsing mode on, and we're using a JSON source. So what that means is that these hidden fields were parsed out during ingestion time. And that was based on what we called a field extraction rule. Okay. Okay. Anyhow, if we take a look here, we see in our actual messages the time and the message. And this message basically has our key value pairs, the key and the value, key and the value, key and the value. And if we look at the first JSON field raw, which is actually taking out that field, parsing out that field. If we take a look at here, it's saying user identity, username. Okay. So if I take a look here and I look at user identity, I see it has that little arrow, which means there's more underneath it. So when I click on that, I see username. So what this tool, what this particular line of code is doing is parsing out the user identity username and giving it an alias, calling it actor. Okay. So I'm going to run that so you can visually see some of the effects of what's going on. So we'll see our histogram, we see our status, our elapsed time, and our total results. We have over 72,000 results. Okay. Notice now in our display fields over here, we not only have time and message, we're now also seeing something called actor. Well, hey, Odell, where did actor come from? Well, that's what we gave the alias of our username.user identity. We now have that actor as a column, and we can see all of the usernames. This next parsing of a JSON is actually going to, again, parse out the event type, okay, this field here, this key value, and rename it and give it an alias, okay? The next one and last one does essentially the same thing. It goes and grabs the source IP. Instead of naming it that long word, they actually do something a little bit more easier, src IP, okay? Yeah, Harry, good point. This is similar to a parse anchor. Absolutely. But again, this is JSON fields. Now, let me kind of back you up. Maybe you didn't hear this or you weren't a part of our other classes. But this gear symbol here, it has this here field auto parsing mode, and it has it turned on automatically. Okay. So if you see, if I hover over this, it says when enabled, Sumo automatically runs a field extraction on JSON log messages. So these fields that are over here now, they were parsed out automatically. Okay. What we've done here was say, hey, we want to parse out on some specific fields, and we want to give them new alias names. Okay. So yeah, you're right. Yep. Anyhow, if we go ahead and run this here query all together for the last 24 hours, we should now see all 3 additional columns as display fields, as well as seeing their values in our message. Okay. Another one of our features of our tool is you could easily find out information, detailed information like percentages and breakdowns. If I were to click on the actor, the word actor, I can see the breakdown of the percentages of how many messages were from Kevin. Okay. If I look at, let's say, for example, my event types, I can see 91% is API calls. The other 8% is console sign-ins. Okay, so again, those are just features for you to be mindful of. I want to warn you, as you go down and click on some of these other fields, just make sure you click on the field name as opposed to clicking on the checkbox. If you were to click on the checkbox of one of these hidden fields, it's going to change your query. Okay, nothing major, but again, it'll change your query and you might not want to do that. All right, I digress. Let's get back to our labs. We see our results. Let's go back over to our steps here. Now, lab activity step number 2. If we want, we can, in our user interface, interactively parse the event name. All we're going to do is position our cursor over the event name, right-click on it, and select parse the key. Okay, and let's go ahead and do that. All right, so again, here we are back in our messages, and we want to just highlight event name. Okay, just like you would do, Harry, as a parse anchor, we're highlighting it. We're going to right-click on it, and instead of seeing parse selected text, we see parse selected key. Okay, and if you look at your actual query, you should now see that newly extracted field. Okay, and of course, you and I are going to type in the word add so we can give it an alias, and we'll go ahead and call it event underscore name. Then we can go ahead and run our query. Now event name appears as one of the other display fields, and it also is now one of our column headers. Okay, and remember, you have that feature where you can just click on the name and see the breakdown of the event names by percentages and count. All right. Hopefully you're still with me and I'm not going too fast. Let's keep going though. All right, so our first 5 lines should look like what's under number 4. Okay. We are going to add another line, so a blank line. So under number 5, if you could go ahead and highlight what's under that number 5 here and copy it. And then let's go back to our CIP. Now we need to add a blank line. Now, some of you may have go ahead and been aggressive and went and hit the enter key, and you found out, oh, the enter key doesn't add a blank line. It actually just reruns the actual query or runs the query for you. In order to get an actual blank line, let's go ahead and place our cursor on the last row in our query and at the end of that last row. So mine is the event name. I'm placing my cursor at the end of event name. On my Mac, I'm using Shift Return. Some of you can also use Shift Enter as well as Alt Enter. Those will work and give you another line. And let's go ahead and paste. All right, so here we want to create an event that matches event type. So what this expression is actually allowing us to do, or get ready to do, is actually start to build a pivot. And what we mean by pivot is allow us to have selections or options or prompting, okay? So let's go back to our lab guide here. What we're going to do here is go ahead and create a parameter off of this. So if we could together, go ahead and highlight event type, the alias. So you're highlighting the event underscore type. What you might have noticed out of your peripheral vision over to the right there is you see a little new icon over to the right, a new link. It reads create parameter, okay? Let's go ahead and click on, make sure you have event type, only event type in focus. Click on the create parameter, okay? What you're gonna notice is now my event type name is gone, and eventually you'll see a pop-up, and it now replaces that with an actual set of settings, okay? So hopefully you're seeing these settings as well. We're gonna change our parameter name. Let's go ahead and call it event type. We can spell it the same way, okay? We want our default value. Let's highlight the default value that's there and put an asterisk there, because we don't want event type to equal event type. That won't make any sense, okay? What we want event type is to bring back all the valid values that are under event type. So that's why we're utilizing the asterisk. It's a string data type, okay? We can go ahead and save that. Odell, what are we doing? Well, we're actually building an actual query that's going to turn into one of our panels on our dashboard. Right now, we want our query to give us the ability to make selections. So we're building something called a parameter, okay? The parameter that we just built was the event type. You're going to see as we go through this, we're going to be able to provide and choose and select items, okay? So again, it's a slow progress, but we'll get there. All right, so we've done all of number 8, number 7, number 8, okay? Deborah, if you look right here in your lab guide, again, essentially what we did on number 6 was we highlighted the event type, and over to the right, you'll see create parameter. So again, you'll see if I highlight an item, you'll see this create parameter, okay? And then once you get that create parameter, you're going to get a new window that pops up, manage parameter settings. And essentially all you're doing is giving the parameter a name, you're replacing the default value, and you're clicking save. Okay. All right, hopefully that caught you up, and let's get back over here. All right, so number 9 here, now we will create a second filter by directly coding it, okay? We're gonna use a where statement to create the parameter actor. The curly brackets define variables that create parameters, okay? Just like we did when we created event type, okay? All right, let's go ahead and highlight everything under number 9, please. Under number 9, if you go ahead and highlight everything under 9 and copy that, please. Let's go back to our CIP. And let's place our cursor at the end of the last statement in our query. It should be your where. Let's place your cursor at the end of the where. And let's go ahead and add a new line. Shift return or Alt enter or Shift enter, which one of those works for you? And let's go ahead and paste those lines of code. And I am going to go ahead and comment out the last 3 lines just to walk you through what's going on, all right? Now, with this where actor matches actor, again, essentially what we did here, and I'll show you this, is I just typed curly bracket, if it allows me, oops, curly bracket, the word actor, and curly bracket. It's 2 of them, of course, Odell. Sorry about that. Let me do that correctly. So again, all you did to manually create the parameter is to give it 2 curly brackets at the beginning and 2 at the end. Okay. Now I'll see that newly created parameter. Right now, I don't want actor to equal actor. So I can just click in that blank, that area where actor is, and add an asterisk. Odell, you went too fast on that one. Okay. All right, so again, we pasted 4 lines of code. I commented out 3 of them, okay? I manually demonstrated how you can create a parameter by just enclosing text in a bracket, in 2 curly brackets. And that's what I did, and that's how we got here, okay? So if I were to run this, again, just to kind of ensure that I get my results, don't get any errors, I get values, okay? We're going to use those parameters coming up, but again, we're getting them ready. All right, the next statement in our query is actually using an aggregate, okay? You know from my courses that whenever you create an aggregate in our log searches, it's going to automatically give us an aggregates tab. So whether it's min, max, average, count, sum, we're going to initiate an aggregate tab. So it's counting by actor, event type, and an event name. So I'll run that for the last 24 hours. And here we can see the actors, their event type, the event name, and their message count, okay? Notice we have our original messages tab and we have our aggregates tab, all right? Be aware that you won't be able to use any of these icons unless you have an aggregates, okay? You'll notice also here when we get to mapping, we don't have any IP address, any latitudes or longitudes. So this is grayed out right now. But once we get latitudes and longitude, we'll be able to utilize our maps. Anyhow, I digressed, okay? Let's go ahead and go and take off the actual comments on our top. We're using the top operator. Now, some of our operators, you'll start to realize that they sort automatically. So we want the top 10 actors by event type and count. I also want you to take a notice of this this statement here. Notice we're using the count operator and it's in a different color to indicate it's an operator. Also notice here that we're using count, but it has the underscore. That's to indicate that it's a placeholder. It's counting whatever value is in the count operator. Okay, so again, that's how you would utilize that or use the underscore. All right, running that, it's going to now give me my top 10 actors, and it's going to sort it by event type and then by count. Okay, so I see all of my AWS councils, which is the first in alphabetical order, and then my AWS APIs in descending order. So our top and a lot of other of our operators that do sort automatically is going to sort in descending order, in case that ever appears on an exam anywhere. Okay. Now, the numbers are great, ladies and gentlemen. These numbers are good. I can see the top 10 of my items, but let's imagine that we wanted to do comparisons, or we wanted to run an analysis, or we wanted to identify trends. Those 3 words, comparisons, analysis, and trends, make me think immediately of a different type of layout, maybe like an Excel layout. So that's what we want to kind of create, an Excel type layout where we have columns and rows. So that introduces the new, that introduces our operator transpose. Okay, so my transpose is letting me know on my rows, I want the actor. On my columns, I want the event type. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. And again, we see our top 10 actors. We see that we've transposed our results to show our actors on our rows and our actual event type on our columns. Okay. All right. Awesome. 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 Okay. All right. So let's then go ahead and create a chart off of this. Okay. So again, in order to create a chart, ladies and gentlemen, you remember this, you have to have an aggregate. Okay. You see you have different types of display outputs. Okay. I can go with a bar chart, a line chart, a column chart, a line chart, a pie chart, etc. Okay. And I think they want us to do a column chart here. Now this is great, you know, but maybe we want to use company colors or something, some preferred colors. So maybe we want to change our diagram. This gear symbol here over to the right in our aggregates will allow us to go to change properties. And maybe I want to see them in red. Okay. And now I've created a different type of visual feature. All right. All right. Awesome. Good job. Okay. Now we want to, if you're following along with me, we're now on down by number 11. We want to customize our parameter with a lookup table. Okay. At the top of our query, we're going to notice that we see those variable capabilities. We're going to go ahead and change that. Okay. We're going to click on, and if you go with number 13 for me and just highlight what's under number 13, you'll see something that reads shared event, /shared/event types. Now it has a period at the end of the sentence. I don't want you to actually copy the period. I'm having you copy this so you don't have to type it. Okay. What we have created, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to our CIP. We have a shared file that has all the valid values in it for event type. So we want you to utilize that shared file. Okay. So back here in your actual log search, you'll see the event type over to the right under the parameters section. And you'll see the 3 dots. Go ahead and click on our more for the 3 dots for your event type, not the actor. And go ahead and click on manage parameter settings. Odell, what are we doing here? Well, what we're doing is we're going to go ahead and start to use those parameters, but we have to have some values to select from. Well, we at Sumo Logic have created an actual shared file that'll allow you to have some values. So that's what we're doing. Okay. All right. So we know it's event type. We know it's string. You'll see down towards the bottom, there's an arrow over to the left that says set values for the parameter. If you click on that arrow, it now gives you a set of additional options. Okay. We want to choose how we want to build the list of values. So that's what I was telling you. We want to build a list of values. Right now it says none is the format. If you click the drop down arrow over to the right, you'll see it has several choices. We want to go ahead and choose our lookup. Okay. Okay. And now we need to populate where it says, well, Odell, what's the file name? So it says lookup file. So if we place our cursor where it reads lookup file and go ahead and paste in that shared event type, or you can type in /shared/event_types. It should pop up for you. You can select it. It should be in bold. You'll go ahead and select that. You're not done. Okay, you want to scroll down or keep scrolling. Right under the lookup file, you'll see where it says select the field for values. Well, we need to tell it in case this file has multiple fields. It essentially only has one, but we're going to go ahead and choose event type. That's the field that has the values that we want. So just to recap, we came into our parameter settings. We expanded the set values parameter. We selected a lookup as the format. We told it where the actual file is, where our values are. It's under shared event types. And we went ahead and populated the fields for values. And go ahead and click save. All right. So if we were to remove the asterisk under event type, we would now see our selection list. Wow, that's cool, Odell. Yeah, it really is. Okay. And we're going to do some more advanced things related to this. So if I wanted to, I can run this query for my API calls. Okay. For all actors. All right. Awesome. Hopefully you were able to get that done. Wasn't too painful there. Okay. And I can see my results down at the bottom. My API calls, here are the actual actors. All right. So that takes us all the way down to creating a SOC dashboard. So you should be down close to number 15. We're going to use an actual naming convention for our dashboard. We're going to call it SOC with your initials and your 3-digit number. If you don't remember your 3-digit number, you can look at your actual login credentials. But again, that's what we're going to name it, SOC and your initials. Okay. All right, let's go back in here in our CIP, all the way over to the right of our chart. You'll see your add to dashboard. Go ahead and click on that. And we're going to call this first panel, let's call it top 10 user activity. Top 10 user activity. That's what we're going to call this. Okay. Now you're going to notice once you click in the dashboard area, it goes and finds all the existing dashboard. This would be one method of adding your top 10 user activity to an existing dashboard. We, of course, don't want to add this to an existing dashboard. We want to create a new dashboard. So we'll start out typing the word SOC. Okay, then we'll go ahead and hit the underscore and put in our initials. And again, I'll go ahead and put in an actual 3-digit number. Okay. What you'll begin to notice when you start typing is it filters down and then it essentially gets to create a new dashboard because it's a unique object. We're going to go ahead and click on that phrase, create new dashboard. Now, if you come to this screen before I did and you didn't click this gear symbol, you're going to have to start over. We want this gear symbol switched off where it says create new dashboard. Go ahead and switch that off. Okay. Again, if you didn't do that and you went ahead, you might have got an error. But if you did do it correctly, let's go ahead and click add. You're now going to be in the actual edit mode of your dashboard. Okay. If you ever wanted to find out where your dashboard is, you can always remember that your personal folder is going to be where your dashboard is. All right. All right, let's keep going here. Good job. Let's answer some questions just to keep our minds focused on the actual exam that's going to be afterwards. Okay. So quiz question number 1. You can actually put this in chat or unmute yourselves. JSON field equals underscore raw source IP address as src IP extracts source IP address and all of its subsequent values appearing in the incoming log messages. True or false? Again, if you guys are yelling out the answers, you have your mics off. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Harry. That's correct, true. Thank you, Jay. All right, next. Double curly brackets enclosed in the variable label are used to create a parameter. True or false? Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you, Harry. Yes, that's correct. That's true. And then lastly, we use the setting icon in the messages tab to change the color of the bar graph. Ah, I couldn't trick you guys on that one. Oh, Lucas, I tricked you. Ah, man. Let me go back over here. That's false. So we never use the settings in our messages tab. We didn't use there's no settings in the, excuse me, use the aggregates tab and use the settings. Yeah, that's the one. No worries, Lucas. It's all good. Thank you for participating. Again, we want this environment to be fun. All right, so again, we have and you have congratulate yourselves. You've created a query to monitor your user activity. You created a bar chart. You created both a lookup and a string parameter. You created a panel in your SOC dashboard, and we actually utilized the filter. Okay. Let's go ahead and go to lab 2, our geolocation council of logins. Okay. Now we want to see where users are logging in from across the world. Okay. We want to learn and apply our geo lookup mapping functionality. Okay. We can quickly identify where our users are logging in and ensure they are from expected locations. In this lab, we're going to go ahead and detect potential login threats. We will query our AWS CloudTrail data for council logins coming in from multiple IP addresses. All right, let's go ahead and copy what's under number 2. Under number 2, let's highlight that entire message and copy it. And again, let's go ahead and create a new log search. Let's paste in our new query. Again, we want to run this for the last 24 hours. And I just want to comment out one of these lines just to kind of remind you of what's going on. So if we run this, of course, you know it's grabbing our username as an actor. It's grabbing our event type as event type and our source IP. But I wanted to stop there to kind of show you, again, we're getting our results as well. Okay. So here's our message there. Okay. And if we look at our response elements, underneath it, there's a council. That council actually has an additional layer. Okay. So if I go over to my actual response element, I can look under my response elements and I can see there's also the council login here as well. So these are some additional fields that are below the top layer. Okay. Anyhow, I just wanted to point that out to you. That's what that dot does. That dot does for you. It kind of indicates that there's another layer there. Okay. All right. Now let's continue on. We ran that. We'll see that there's an additional column now called results. We can see over in our field browser, not only are we seeing time and message, we're seeing actor, event type, results, and SRC IP. Okay. All right. Let's go back to our guide here. All right, next, we want to go ahead and add some filters. Okay. We're going to filter out so we only get where there is an actor and there is an event type. Okay. So we're using where clauses. If you would go ahead under your number 4, let's go ahead and copy that. And let's paste that. First, let's place our cursor on the last row and let's add a new blank line and paste. So again, we're capturing all of this, but we're telling, hey, we want to make sure there's an actor. So that exclamation mark, that's a not. Okay. Again, we want to make sure there's an event type. So only bring us back where there is an actor, where there is an event type. Okay. Now, the benefit of doing this, adding this where clause, is going to make sure when we add our parameter in the next step that we don't have any null values. Okay. All right, so that's done. It's bringing back where there's only actors and event types. All right. Well, you could, where are you saying you can make that? Well, no, you can't make that a parameter. If you're trying to make this step a parameter, no, that's an additional step, because again, if you look at the phrase that we're copying, we're using a different phrase. We're saying matches, okay? All right, let's go ahead and copy number 5 here under number 5. And let's go ahead and paste that as a new row. Let's paste this expression. You're going to notice, if you give it a chance to actually give the opportunity to compile, you're going to see that both event type and actor will give you parameters. Again, those curly brackets will give you the parameters that you see. Now, yours may not be in the same location on the screen as mine. Don't worry about it. It's just because, again, the sizing of the screen. So if I were to collapse my actual panel, my navigation panel, everything's up on the top line. But since I don't have that much space, you know, it kind of moves things around. So again, no worries if that's the case, okay? Now, we see our 2 parameters wherever they are. Let's go ahead and put an asterisk in both places, under actor as well as under event type, because again, we want to see all of the values. Okay. All right, so we did all of that. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and let's copy the actual code under number 7. We're going to use the geo lookup, and I'm going to explain this to you as well. Okay, we're going to return our latitude and longitude, our country name, city, and regions. Okay, so again, you're copying the last line, the lookup line, under number 7. Okay, we're going back to our query, and you're placing your cursor on the last line. That's your where you should have the actor in the brackets. And you're going to go ahead and add a new row there. Give it a minute to actually compile. Sometimes it takes a second. And then paste. All right, now let's read this statement so you can kind of understand. And it's best to read a lookup from right to left. Okay. So what we're doing is we're providing an IP address. We have a relationship with Newstar. Newstar provides a set of information in a lookup table for us. So if we provide the IP address in that lookup table, we're going to return the latitude, the longitude, the country name, the city, and the region. Okay, so again, we need to provide the IP address so it looks it up in that table and returns these results. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. And now we'll see, once it completes, we'll see our actor column, the city that the actual country they're in, how did they actually make the actual login, and we can see their latitude and longitude. We can also find out the results of being successful and the actual IP. Okay. Now, if you recall, one of the things that I talked about was, in order for those icons to appear, we would need an aggregate. Okay, so we don't see those icons to display it in a chart or anything like that. Okay? That's because we don't have an aggregate. All right, so this is a perfect example for us. All right, we want to create our actual map. And in order to do that, under number 8, you're going to actually highlight the aggregate, okay, where it says count by. So go ahead and copy that last line and add that last line under our lookup. So we'll add a new line and paste in the last line. Notice what it's doing, ladies and gentlemen. It's telling us it's going to count our actor, our source IP, our latitude and longitude, as well as our country name and our event type. Okay. That count, as you all know, is going to initiate an aggregates tab. Okay. And after it gets done processing, we'll see we have an aggregate tab. We can see all of our actors, their IP address they're using, as well as the latitude and longitude. We can see the country name as well as how they actually were logging in. Now, as I mentioned, you won't have these icons available to you if you don't have an aggregates tab, and you saw that on the messages tab. I also mentioned earlier, you won't be able to utilize this map icon if you don't have a latitude, longitude, and an actual count. So we have those. We now can click on this icon over to the right, which now takes our raw values and displays them on a map. Again, we have the ability to drill in on our map by using our double clicking on our mouse or dragging and scrolling the scroll bar. Okay, we can also drag and hold our mouse down, go across as well. Okay, let's call this CloudTrail Geo of sign in activity. Again, I'm highlighting the actual bold text under number 10 because that's going to be the name of our actual panel that we just created. Okay, so let's go back. Odell, I'd like to see the raw numbers. How do we get back and see the numbers? Great question. Again, this first icon here allows you to toggle back to the numbers. Now I can see my map if I want to go back to the map. So again, that first icon will allow you to see the numbers. All right, let's go ahead and add to dashboard. We're going to call this panel CloudTrail Geo of sign in activity, which means the map of the sign in activity essentially. Okay. Let's go ahead and click where it reads dashboard. And this time we can type in case insensitive. We can type in SOC and we can start typing in our initials and we eventually will get down to our dashboard. You're not creating a new dashboard, ladies and gentlemen. You're adding this panel to your existing dashboard. So make sure you find your dashboard. Okay, and maybe I need to give it a unique name here. OG. All right, so, and then add. You're gonna get a pop-up, ladies and gentlemen, that says, hey, the filter already exists. Just go ahead and add to the panel. It's talking about those 2 parameter names. You could rename them if you wanted to, but we don't. So we're just gonna add, okay? My map wouldn't render last night in the fundamentals class either. So Amy, and you have all of the objects, you have the right query and everything. Okay. Josh, any ideas why her map wouldn't probably render?
No, and you're clicking on the map icon. If you want to send me the query you're utilizing, take a look at it, Amy, but it should show up there under that aggregates. Odell, if you could just show it one more time real fast.
Wrong query, sorry. I think it's search number 2. Come on, there you go. Okay. So this aggregates tab you need to have, and the actual map icon is there as well. Okay. And then that aggregate tab came from this last statement, the count by. Okay. Oh, so you do get the aggregate tab. Okay. You just, and is the map icon grayed out? Oh, it doesn't render. That might be, I don't know, might be a memory thing. I'm not sure. Again, Josh will kind of work with you on that. Again, I apologize that I'm not able to help you with that right away. All right, this will be a great point for us to go ahead and take our break here. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the timer. And we'll go ahead and put the timer up. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. Go ahead and breathe, stretch, get away from the monitor for a minute. Okay. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully you had an opportunity to stretch and breathe and exhale, get away from the monitor for a moment. All right, let's continue on. We had just completed our lab 2. Let's go ahead and answer a few questions down at the bottom. The quiz, again, to keep our minds on our actual upcoming exam. True or false? Lookup uses the CrowdStrike data to provide latitude and longitude. Again, you can either unmute yourselves or you can put that in your chat. Dan, you're correct. That's false. We did not. CrowdStrike doesn't provide that. CrowdStrike actually provides us with the malicious IP addresses. Okay. That's a new star that will give us that latitude and longitude. Okay. Number 2 here. We can display a map without aggregating data. Again, yeah, you guys should all know that. I talked about that, so that's false. Okay. I can use the add panel to add an existing dashboard. Ooh, I never saw an add panel. I did see an add dashboard, add to dashboard. Okay. All right. Awesome. Congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You have learned how to use the lookup for mapping. You reviewed how to create a parameter in a query, and you added a second panel to your existing dashboard. Okay. Let's go ahead and click lab number 3. And let's see here. Lucas, I think you do have a point here. You can use add panel. So again, Lucas did make a good point there. You could use add panel here. So good point. Thank you, Lucas. All right, let's go ahead and get on to lab 3 here. We want to identify the top 10 number of failed login attempts. Now, sometimes you want to detect users who failed to log into their account. The users could have, forgotten their password, or someone could be attempting to hack your network. In this lab, we're going to be filtering the incoming logs to observe the top 10 login failures. And we're going to learn how to aggregate that data over time. And then we'll filter for specific activity. So we're going to use the time slice and the actual top operator. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do something a little different here. Let's go down to number 9 and highlight the entire expression. So again, go down to number 9 and highlight and copy the entire expression. Let's go back to our CIP You can close all those tabs if you want to. Again, we can always open up our dashboard again. Let's go ahead and create a new log search. And let's paste in our query. Now, again, as I did before, I want to break this query down. Again, I'm going to comment out the last 5 lines here. Just a recap of what we're doing here. We're using our source category, metadata tag, and we're looking at our CloudTrail logs. We're parsing out our JSON fields for username as actor, event type is event type, source IP is SRC IP, and we're getting our console as results. Okay, there's another pipe here I want to kind of put on another row. All right, so we're also utilizing the where our event type matches. So again, we're using the matches in our where statement so we can create a parameter called event type. We're using another where and another matches for our actor to create the actor parameter. Okay. We're also ensuring that we get only valid values. So we're using a where we're validating that there isn't an actual row that doesn't have an actor. So we're using an exclamation point, which is actually a not. Okay. We want to make sure we have an actor, and we also want to make sure we have an event type. Now, for this to run, we need to go ahead and make sure we populate our parameters with asterisks. So if you can go ahead over to those lines under your parameters and make sure you have an asterisk there so it brings back all the values. Again, I've commented out at everything. I wanted to get us to this point. So again, we run it. And let's make sure we're running it for a nice period of time. I think this is 24 hours as well. Yeah, so let's go ahead and put 24 hours as a time period so we can get a lot more data there. So over the last 24 hours, we're running and parsing out all of those key values as well as creating 2 parameters. And we're also checking to make sure we have actors and event types. Okay. That next statement there in the where, again, we want our results, which is the actual console key value there. We have the results there. In there, we want to make sure that the failures, so we want to bring back all of our failures in the console type. So that's what that where it's going to do. If we run that, we should now see in our results only failures. Okay. If I were to comment this out for a second, ladies and gentlemen, just to kind of, after it stops processing, I want to make sure you see and remember what was there prior to us adding this where clause. Okay. So I want to run this again without that where clause and let you see in our results, we have failures as well as successes. Okay. And if you think about it, there's another way I could have done that as well. I could have went over to my results field and clicked on it and saw my percentages. So I have 98% of successes and 1% of failures. Okay. Anyhow, I digressed. I'm taking the actual comments off of that where for our failures. So we only bring back the failures. Next, the next where statement is only going to bring back our console logins. There's actually 2 types of events. Okay. So we want to bring back only the AWS console sign-ins. Again, we can always go to our event type, click on it. And in this example, we only have 1, but if we had more than 1, we're designating and ensuring that we're only bringing back the AWS console sign-ins. Okay. So we'll see that that event type only has in that column AWS councils. The next statement allows us to start getting our results ready to render in buckets, okay? And what we mean by buckets is we want to create time slices. In this example, we're creating 1 hour buckets, 1 hour time slices, okay? We won't readily see anything right now when we run it with that, but again, the tool is getting ready to render it in those 1 minute buckets. The next icon in our query or line in our query allows us to count. Again, we're counting by time slice, actor, event type, event name, and results. Now, something may pop out at you right away on this count line. You'll notice that we're using the operator 10 time slice. It's in a hue purplish color. And then when we go to the count by, we're using the actual placeholder feature. So that underscore in front of the time slice is a placeholder, which allows us to utilize the value that's in the actual operator. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and count, and that count is also an aggregate. So it's also going to give us an aggregation tab, an aggregates tab. One thing that that count doesn't do, but we can see it here, is it doesn't put our time in order. So we can see here, these timestamps are out of order, but again, we can get our counts for failures for those that logged in through the AWS console, how many times they failed, okay? And finally, the last line of code is using the top operator. We want to see the top 10 actors by time slice, event type, results, and count. There we go, using that placeholder in both of the count and the time slice, because again, the count and the time slice are operators. The count, the actual top operator, sorts in descending order automatically, okay? So in descending order by our time slice, we can see the amount of failed logins to the AWS console. The top 10, okay? All right. Let's go ahead and call this dashboard top 10 failed login attempts. And we're gonna add it, excuse me, let's call this panel top 10 failed login attempts. And let's go ahead and add it to our dashboard. So over to the right, we're going to click on the phrase add to dashboard again. Again, we're going to give our panel a name, and let's call it top 10 failed login attempts. Let's click on our dashboard, and we can start typing in SOC underscore your initials, and it should filter down to your existing dashboard. Then you're going to go ahead and click add. And add to panel. All right, so you should now see 3 dashboard panels added to your dashboard. Okay. All right, awesome job, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go over the quiz answers. True or false? Adding a wildcard in the parameter window means it will filter out everything. True or false? Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Harry. That's correct. That's false. Okay. Adding the asterisk actually brings back everything under that field. Okay. Question number 2, time slice groups my incoming logs into chunks of time. Thank you, Jay. That's correct. It's true. That's correct, Dan. It's true. Harry, I'm sorry. We do use the time slice to break things in chunks. Remember, we just use the time slice to put things in 1 hour chunks. Okay. Question number 3, the following code pipe where not is empty actor filters out logs that do not have an actor. Awesome. Very good, Lucas and Jay. That's true. We use that exclamation mark to make sure we have values where there is an actor. Okay, so that's correct. All right. So congratulations. You've completed the task of how to look at your users' activities. You've filtered on the top values. You've analyzed your data over time, and you've aggregated by count. Let's go ahead and click on our lab number 4. Now here's where it gets real intense here. We're starting to talk about compromise detection from a brute force attack. A brute force attack occurs about 5%. That's 5% of security breaches in your government, your businesses, organizations, even in private individuals. The actors are getting more and more clever in their techniques. So we want to catch these attempts. Okay, we can detect the brute force attempt by monitoring our CloudTrail data for a high number of failed login attempts within a period of time. So in this lab, we're going to detect a brute force hacking technique used to find out the user's credentials by applying both in a conditional statement as well as an aggregate. Okay. So let's go ahead and go down to step number 9 again. Again, go down to step number 9 and highlight the entire query for me. Go ahead and copy that. And let's go ahead and create a new log search. A new log search, and we're going to run this for 24 hours. And I'm going to comment out the lines to walk you through the code as well. Okay. All right, so let's comment out everything below here. Those last 5 lines I'll comment out. Again, just to kind of remind you, we're going against CloudTrail. We're grabbing those JSON fields. We're using the where matches to create an event parameter and an actor parameter. Okay. We're going to render our results in time slices, in buckets. What's the size of the bucket? It's going to be 1 hour. Okay. Now, in order for this to run correctly, let's go ahead and add the asterisks in our parameters. Oh, Dow, I don't remember creating any parameters. Right. But when you pasted the code where it had the curly brackets, when the tool compiled it, it automatically created that. Okay. So that's how you got those parameters down there. Okay. And if we run this right now, again, we'll see the normal messages that we've been seeing before, where it's parsing out our actor, our event name, our event type, our results, and our source SRC IPs. All right, now the next statement under our time slice here is an if statement. Okay, it's actually a true or false statement there. And what it's saying here is if my results, now where does results come from, Odell? Well, it comes from my response element console login. We call that results. So if my results equals success, so if there's a success in there, we're going to give it a 1, which is true. Else we'll give it a 0, which is false. That's going to be 0s and 1s in this new column called success count based on if the results equal success. Okay, so we're looking at that for over the last 24 hours. And we'll have a new column here called success counts, okay? And we can see here that where the results is success, I have a 1 there, okay? When the results aren't success, I would have a 0. All right. Now, one of the techniques we can utilize, like I talked about before, is we can go over to our field browser and I can just click on success counts and I can see I have 98% that's going to be true and 1% that's going to be false. All right. The next conditional statement there reads, now let's look at our failures, okay, and our results. So we're again looking at our results. We're finding out if it's failure, it's going to be true, else it'll be false. And we'll have a failure count newly created column. So we can conclude right away when the success count has a true in it, the actual failure count should have a false. Okay, and that first statement, that first result set, I see Gosia there. Gosia has a council login, AWS council. The failure count is 0. The success result is true, so I need to have the success count as a 1. So again, it's working the way we expect it. Okay. Next statement here is we're going to sum. So we're using an aggregate. That's the first thing to be mindful of. We're using an aggregate. We're summing our success counts, so all of the successes, and we're going to call that success. We're summing our failures, so all of the failure counts, and we're going to call that failure. And we're summing those by time slice, actor, and event. So that sum is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, going to give us an aggregates tab once we run it over the last 24 hours. Okay, so we see our aggregates tab and we actually see our actual summed failures and successes by that actor and their event type. Okay. Next, we only want to bring back or only want to be concerned about where our failures are greater than 0. So you can see ANKIT here has failure and a few, I can visually see those. But again, we want the code to do it. So we're using a where clause, our where operator, where we want our actual failures to be greater than 0. So it's going to bring back only items where our failure count is greater than 0. And we know it only should be a few of those, but it is 3 pages of those of these as well. Okay. So we see our failure count, our success counts, and the actual time and actor. Lastly here, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and take our failures, divide them by our successes, multiply them by 100 to get a percentage of success to failure ratios, or failure to success ratios. Okay, so we run that and we should now see our failure to success ratios on the end for where our failures are greater than 0. Okay. All right. And let's see here, what do we do? All right, let's go back to our CI, our actually lab guide here. If I can get to it, yep. And we've done all of that, awesome. All right, let's go ahead and add this to our panel. We're gonna call this one possible brute force attempts. Again, we're gonna add this to our dashboard and call it possible brute force attempts. So let's go back to our CIP. Down in our aggregates tab over to the right, you should see the add to dashboard. It's prompting us. What do we want to call this? We're going to call this possible brute force attempts. We're going to search for our dashboard by typing in SOC underscore your initials, and it should filter down to find your dashboard. And of course, it's going to prompt you and say, hey, Odell. It might not say, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, you have these two existing parameters. Do you want to rename them? Nope, we will keep them as they are. So we're going to just click add to panel. Or add to dashboard. Yep. All right. So awesome. We're building our actual SOC dashboard to kind of manage and monitor our security environment. Awesome. All right. Going back to our lab questions. True or false here? The underscore raw refers to the raw data in the incoming logs in this example. So JSON field equals underscore raw, event type as event type. True or false? True, very good. Okay. If the result matches failure count, then return a 1 to failure in this example. So the example is if results equals failure, 1 is true, 0 is false as failure counts. All right, very good. Yes. Again, I read it to you. 1 is true and 0 is false. Okay. Finally, when you use the time slice 1 hour, you are grouping your incoming logs into 1 hour groups for purposes of analyzing over time. Correct, that's true. Okay, I did emphasize the word hour. All right, congratulations, you've completed the task. You learned how to use a conditional if statement. You reviewed how to create a parameter in a query. You added the fourth panel to an existing dashboard, and you aggregated your data using a sum operator. Okay. Let's go ahead and detect land speed violations. If you recall, that was one of the things we talked about in my demo. Okay. Now, the user community is very mobile now. They can log in from anywhere around the world. Okay. Due to this, detecting land speed violations is a critical factor. To protect the security, your corporate environment awareness of credentials that have been leaked or phished is very vital. Okay. A land speed violation is when a user logs in from one location and then logs in again from a different location within a too short of a time period to be practical. For example, a user logs in from Australia and then just 3 hours later, they log in from Brazil. Okay, kind of odd there. So in this lab, we will merge various capabilities, okay, that we've previously used. All right. In advance, we're going to create this query to practice as well. Now, let me just digress for a moment here and tell you a few things. In your upcoming exam, ladies and gentlemen, in your upcoming exam, make sure you can get to lab number 5, because you might get the question that gives you this here flow chart. Okay. And it's going to ask you to put this flow chart in order. This flow chart is really an actual diagram or a layout of how we're actually going to build this query. Okay, we're going to select our source category, parse out our IP addresses and our users. We're then going to filter to make sure we don't get any null IP addresses. We'll then create the start of when a user logs in and examine the time each user has logged in from that IP address. We then will filter out any logins to avoid any null messages. We'll convert our decimal to format it back to an IP address. We'll then group each IP address, calculate the distance, calculate the speed, and then we will filter out any logins from the same IP address. We'll then specify the impossible speed and then format the presentation. So this flow might be a question on the exam. So what you're going to do is make sure you remember to come back to lab number 5. Okay, now let's talk about some of the other things we're going to introduce you to. The IP4 to num. We're going to actually utilize that operator because we need to convert our IP address. Okay, we need to convert it to an actual decimal. So the IPv4 to number operator allows us to convert an internet protocol from an octa format to a decimal format. So we're going to utilize that to find out these malicious threats here. Okay. Now we need to convert that because the backshift operator is actually going to compare values. It can't compare IP addresses, so that's why we converted that decimal to an actual, excuse me, that IP address to a decimal. Okay. We'll also utilize the geo lookup. Again, remember, if we provide an IP address to Newstar, it actually populates a table that'll give us the latitude and longitude. Okay. There are some mathematical operators that we'll utilize, such as the floor, the min, and the POW. Okay. Again, that POW again is another math operator for us. Okay. All right, and just to kind of, I don't see that here, but I guess they removed that here. Anyhow, those are the actual items that we're going to use. I'm going to walk you through this query section by section. It's a huge query here. Okay, so if you want to scroll down till you get to number 11, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and highlight and copy this query and create a new log search. Okay, again, under a number 11. Go back to our CIP. I opened it in the wrong tab. That's awesome. All right, now let's go back to our CIP and let's create a new log search and let's paste. It'll take a second to paste from memory to the log search area. So give it an opportunity. Don't paste it twice, just give it an opportunity to paste from memory, please. Let me go back here. I went too far here. And all right, now let's make sure it got back over. All right, so here it is. All right, so let's take a look at this section by section. All right, so at the very top here, you can see we're using our metadata tag, source category. We're going against our cloud trail. Okay, we're parsing out for our source IP address and our username. Okay, we're using the no drop operator. Okay, the no drop says, hey, if there are messages that doesn't meet the criteria that you have in your parsing, don't drop it. Okay, so if it doesn't have a source IP or it doesn't have a username, don't drop it. That's what the no drop does for you. Okay, then in the next section here, we're going to go ahead and using our where and create our actor as a parameter. Okay, where it matches. Okay, We're also going to make sure we find a public IP address. So we're saying where we get the IIS public for the IP. Again, it's hard to do that for private IP addresses, okay? Then we're getting the minimum number of message time using the min operator, and then we're sorting, okay? Now here's where we get into that conversion. We're going to convert using the IP4 to number. We're converting our decimal, and we're calling it IP decimal, okay? Then we're able to use that backshift to actually find out the actual decimal period time and the long time for that user, okay, by using the backshift and comparing times, okay? We want to make sure we don't bring back any null values for our backshift. Okay. Then we need to convert the answer of our backshift back to an actual octal type number, which is an IP. Okay, then we're using the lookup, and again, remember, I suggest you read the lookup from right to left. So this first lookup, we're provided with the IP, looking it up in the geolocation, and it's going to give us the country name. We're going to call it country name 1, the latitude and longitude, and we'll call those lat and long 1 respectively. We also bring back the previous IP, okay? So we can compare those two. And again, it's bringing back latitude, longitude, and classifying those as latitude and longitude, okay? As well as country name 2. We want to make sure that none of those variables, those values, have blanks. So we want to make sure the lat and longs are 1s are not blank, as well as the latitude and longitudes are not blank. Okay. Then we're going to utilize the haver sign. Again, as I mentioned to students often, I don't know everything in this tool. It's a software company. They're changing all the time. But what I do know is I have a resource. It's called helpsumologic.com. Okay. And this is something that I suggest you use when you start taking the exams. Okay. And when I type in haver sign to kind of find out, hey, what does that haver sign do? It's going to calculate the actual distance between latitude and longitude values of 2 coordinates. So again, we have lat 1 and lat 2. So it's going to give us, that haver sign is going to give us the actual coordinates from those. All right, going back to our CIP. Again, I wanted to quickly show you when there's doubt there, okay? So next, we're then, after the haver sign, we're calculating the speed the user would have to travel in order to actually have traveled that distance. So we're using the long time minus the previous login time, dividing that, okay? And that'll give us a delta, okay? Then we're dividing our distance by our login time, which will give us a velocity, okay? And we want to bring back where our velocities are greater than 0. Then we're going to go ahead and specify a speed, default speed. So 500 is our suspicious speed that we're setting. And we want to make sure that in our where clause that the velocity is greater than the suspicious speed. All right. Then we get down to formatting our presentation. We do a concatenation where we're bringing both of our fields together and call it an IP address. We're then using an if statement where we want our country name and 1 to be greater than our country name 2. We'll then concatenate those fields. And here's something that I often like to point out during this here part of the lab is the fields operator. You may or may not have had experience with the fields operator, but essentially the fields operator allows us to put the actual fields in the order that we want them to display in. So we're using the field operator. We should see user, IP address, and we should see our values in this order, okay? Again, we want to make sure we don't have any blank users or any users that don't have any values. Excuse me. And then finally, we want to make sure that our apparent velocity is not equal to infinity. And then we're sorting by that. okay? And if we run that query, again, we'll run this query for 24 hours and get our results. It may take a minute or two, ladies and gentlemen, because that's a huge piece of code. And again, we're all smashing and running it at one time. All right, while that's doing that, while that's running, I'll go ahead and let it run. And oh, perfect. This is perfect for us. This is a teachable moment from Odell. It won't run because, again, we created a parameter way up there for actor, and we need to go ahead and make sure that parameter brings back all the values. So again, if you hit the enter key and nothing, you hit the actual blue run button and nothing happened, that's because we didn't, and then blame it on the trainer here, we didn't change that parameter to an asterisk. Now we can run it, and it'll run for all actor values. Amy, probably because one of those probably IP addresses don't exist anymore, or maybe it something's wrong with the IP address. But I get that too sometimes. It's test data, so that's probably one of the issues. All right, while this is running here, let's go back and let's talk about it. All right, so here in lab 5 is where we are. If we scroll down to the bottom here, we'll see our results, because we're eventually going to add that to our dashboard. Okay, but let's go over the questions while this is running, because mine is still running here and yours may be as well. True or false? Geo lookup receives an IP address and returns a location. All right, now remember what I talked about the geo lookup, okay? We actually provide the IP address and it gives us the latitude and longitude, okay? So that's true, all right? The Haversine formula was used to convert octals to decimal. False. If you remember, the Haversine operator returns the distance between latitude and longitude. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Lucas. You guys are correct. And number 3, land speed violations allow you to detect suspicious user activity. Yeah, that's correct. That's true. That's why we built that. All right, let's see if this is still running. Looks like it is still running. Can't do anything here. So it's still running. Okay. All right. So congratulations, you've completed the task where you learned how to format with the fields operator. You actually use the operators backshift, geo lookup, and IP4 to number. And we actually talked about the mathematical operators, POW, floor, and min. Let's go ahead and click on our lab 6. Investigating using search parameters. Okay, still going there. All right. All right, in lab 6, we'll go ahead and tee it up. Now that we have a dashboard with several security panels, okay, we're going to go ahead. Yeah, we're going to add it to our dashboard, Jay. Again, if you've already done it, if yours completed, I was going to come back to it once mine completed and add it. But again, you can go ahead and click add to dashboard and give it a name as well. But again, I was going to come back to that. All right. What we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, now here in this lab, we're going to go ahead and add a lookup table. So we can create the table using a query. And then we're going to make sure when we copy this query, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to copy the query on number 1. And we're going to replace the actual text down at the bottom. I'll show you once we take this over to our log search and try to do a new log search. And again, just to kind of make sure, okay, it's coming around now. Give it a chance to come around here. What we're going to do once I am able to display a new lab, I'll go ahead and paste in my expression, and then we'll change the actual, let me go over here. What we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, if you're following along and you're ahead of me, you're going to just replace this left curly bracket, the left bracket, as well as the right greater than sign with your initials and your machine name. That's all you're going to do is just replace that and run that for the last 24 hours. I'll catch up with you as soon as I can. All right. All right, it should be coming up shortly. Okay. So I want to continue with not put us too far behind. So I want to keep on and move forward to the next lab. Again, I think you understand of how to pace. So I'm going to go ahead and how to create an actual dashboard. All right, so hopefully you've pasted in the expression that I just discussed in lab number 6. So under number 1, you paste that in a new log search. Make sure you use it for 24 hours. Now, what I suggested and asked you to do was replace the actual your initials. So I'm putting in OG, and then I'm putting in 511. So that's the actual name. This save operator is going to give us a name for our actual lookup table. Okay, so that's all we're doing by naming it. So let's run that. You're going to get a pop-up message that says, hey, Odell, do you want to save a file query? You're going to just click run. Yes, we do. Okay, you'll see a list of values there. Okay, now let me point out one other thing here. All right, and I want to run this as well. You'll notice I'm using the fields operator. Okay, we're not going to display the count. Okay, so when I run this, again, we talked about the field operator earlier, and I want to kind of demonstrate to you. Let me go ahead and comment out this, what it looks like prior to us using the field operator. So again, when we run this, we see the count column as well as the actor column. That's with these these 2 lines of code filtered out. Okay, so I see the count column and the actor column. This next line says, hey, I don't want to display the count column. So notice it's using the actual underscore and the minus to not display it. Okay. And then, of course, we saved our file name by utilizing the save operator. Odell, what's this for? Well, you know, we had the parameters. Now we're creating our own parameter table. Okay, it's going to be called whatever we call it here. Okay, so we ran that. Let's go ahead and check and see if that actual table exists. So we're going to use a cat operator. Okay. Once it runs, we'll come back under number 3 in lab 6. Let's go ahead and highlight, copy that. Again, this is going to validate what we created exists. Okay. So we go back and create a new log search. When we paste in, remember, we have to replace the bracket there and the pound symbols in the bracket with our initials and our number. Okay. And what that's going to do is go, and once we run it, it's going to go and get the values. If we did it correctly, we're going to display the values. Okay. So this last step will really check to find out if the object we created exists. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and add that object to our actual actor parameter. Okay. Let's quickly do this. All right. So again, we're down here where we go to manage parameters for user lookups. So we're going to go click on our actual 3 dots for our parameter actor, and we're just going to change our actual set values to another lookup table where we're using our actual named object. So again, let's go back to our CIP. And we can go to any one of our dashboard panels. Okay. So let's go back to our SOC. So any dashboard panel, let's go to SOC here. So any one of your SOC items. And let's go ahead and click on the actual show in a search. So any one of these you can click on. We want to bring up the parameters. So that's why we're doing this. Okay. You should see both event type and actor from any one of those you clicked on. Let's go ahead and click on the 3 dots for our actor and manage parameters. A lot of these are set already, so we can just scroll down to where it reads set values for parameter. So click on that. Right now it says choose how you want to build a list of values. So we click the drop down. We are still going to use a lookup table. So we're still using a lookup table. But this time when we click in our lookup, we're going to go ahead and we're going to utilize the shared, and we'll make sure that we have our initials and our number. Okay, it should populate in bold for you. So you're typing in /shared / your initials, your number _ AWS actor list. Once you click on that, you then want to scroll down because there's one more field we need to populate where it says select a field for value. We're going to choose actor. Okay. So again, all we did was open up our managed parameters. We specified it's going to be a lookup. We specified the lookup that we saved, and we specified the field value, and we click save. Okay. Now for this to work, we would remove the asterisk, and then we would see a choice of our list. We see our list of items that we created. Okay, which helps us when it comes to making a selection and filtering down. Okay, so all we did was remove the asterisk, and now we're able to single in or focus in on one of those two areas. Okay. Then the last thing we would do here, since we've changed one of our dashboard panels, we would of course click on the update dashboard. Okay, and then we're going to apply that. Add to panel. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the question is, can I filter from the dashboard? And it's yes. So up here in the top right corner, you'll see this filter icon. It brings down a set of drop downs for your filters, and then you can go ahead and choose whatever you want. Okay. So Harry, I hope that answered your question. All right. You're welcome. Okay, so again, questions here. To display a lookup table, I use the command CP. True or false, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you, Lucas. False. CP is a command used in Unix for copying. I didn't use a CP at all. Search parameters allow me to pivot quickly to any metadata values. So essentially it allows me to make a selection for a set of parameters from a set of parameters. Yep. We use this save operator to create a lookup table. True or false? True, Jay. Remember I pointed out that save operator when we save the name of that file. Okay. So this here save right here allows us to create this file. All right. Let's go ahead on to sharing. I'll go over these last couple examples, ladies and gentlemen. Again, in lieu of time here, exporting and sharing your starter SOC dashboard. So back in the day, we used to allow users to kind of, they wanted to kind of take this home with them, not that it would be, you know, but then we allowed them to do that. So I wanted to quickly demonstrate how you can do that. Okay, so you can just watch this example. So I'm going to go back to my navigation panel. Okay, and here's my SOC here. If I wanted to export this out, I go to the three dots over here and I can export it out. Okay, I could then download it, open up an editor. I can change it by changing locations and some of the other code within here. Okay, once I'm done with that newly created edited file, I can then come back into my CIP, go to the three dots on the search and use an import. Okay, paste in the code, make sure the name is there, and I now have copied, edited that SOC object that we got from class. Okay. All right, good stuff. Okay. Export outs to JSON format, that's true. Before importing, I must change the pointers to use my data in using a visual editor. This is true. This is what I was speaking of, ladies and gentlemen. You got to make sure if you're taking it from our training environment, it's not going to work in your production or your environment. It has to make sure it's looking at your data, okay? After importing, I cannot share the dashboard with others. Well, I didn't go over that, but you can. So again, if I import again, you're still going to have the ability to share. Okay, because you're importing it to your personal folder and you have these options. Okay. All right. And then lastly, using threat intel wisely to avoid costly data breaches. This example here talks about using our scheduled views with that has been defined that actually talks about IP threats. Okay, so I'm just going to open up the schedule view for you. This is typically something that's created by an administrator. So again, I'm in my navigation panel. I'm going down to my managed data, going to my logs. Okay, in my logs, I have several tabs here. Okay, I can look at my scheduled views. And if I look at this here IP threats, just to kind of get an idea of what it's doing here, And I clicked on the wrong part of it, so let's go back there. Whoops. And let's do this one here. Okay. All right, so in here, this particular schedule view is actually parsing out these items for me, okay? And again, this could be very beneficial. This type of lab activity could be very beneficial when you want to detect your intel a little bit more wisely. So each day there's going to be people attempting to access your company's data to obtain identifiable information. This can be quite challenging. So to prevent that from happening, you have the data coming in from all sorts of applications running in hybrid cloud system. Okay, so it's hard to track all of those indicators of compromise. Okay, but now you can detect malicious intent across all your incoming data, which can be millions and billions of log messages daily, just in seconds. Okay, again, that actual schedule view is actually going to be ran during ingestion time. Okay, so again, that lab there kind of speaks to that indefinitely. Okay, all right. I went about 17 minutes over for your actual exam time. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Any questions? All right, so now it's time for you to go ahead and take the exam. Let me walk you through how you're going to take the exam. Okay, so first of all, be aware you're in our training environment. We want you to take the exam in your company's Sumo Logic environment. So we want you to log out of our training environment. So in order to log out of our training environment, you go to the navigation panel, go down to the main menu, click on your name and sign out. Okay. Again, you want to take the actual exam in your environment. I'm simulating that. I'm logging into our environment. I'm going to my home tab and my certification link in our environment. Okay, and you're doing the same thing. I'm walking you through this because it's very important that you follow the steps. Okay, so I'm on my home tab, certification link, get certified. Once I click on get certified, I'll click on get certified again because there will be a big box that says get certified. So we will click on that, logged into our company's Sumo Logic. Now here's where it's important. Make sure you choose the exam that reads Cloud Security Monitoring and Analytics exam. Okay. Again, the wording is similar to others, but I want to emphasize that's the one you're utilizing. Okay. Now, this particular exam, unlike the other ones, only have, I think, about 20 questions. Okay. 22 questions, I think it has. Okay. So again, here it tells you the overview. The exam consists of 22 questions, 60 minutes. I'll be here for the entire 60 minutes to help you. Remember, it's open book, open lab. You use your help as well, okay? Key thing you want to remember is once you start the assessment and you get all the way down, you click next, okay? One of the things you'll have the ability of doing before you click submit is you'll have the ability to see your answers that you got wrong. It won't tell you the right answer, but at least you'll have a mental idea of what was wrong, okay? Then you'll submit. If you wanted to take it again, you could. Again, you're more than welcome. All right, so I will allow you all to take the test. I want to thank you on behalf of Josh and myself and the trainers here at Sumo Logic. We thank you for joining us in this session. We look forward to you joining us in upcoming training sessions. For those of you that will take the exam right now, good luck. For those of you that are coming back and taking it, again, good luck to you as well. I will put in here the actual Uber Eats voucher. And after you finish the exam, you can log out of the Zoom environment. Good night and good afternoon, and thank you again.